Welcome to The Appetite, a podcast brought to you by Opal Food and Body Wisdom, an eating disorder treatment clinic in Seattle, Washington. On this podcast, we talk about all things food, body, and movement, and mental health. I'm Dr. Lexi Giblin, your host for today, and I'm here with Kara Bazzi, Opal Clinical Director and Co-Founder. Hi, Kara.
Hi there.
And we are joined today by Phoebe.
Hello.
Hi, Phoebe. Welcome.
Thanks.
And Asha.
Hi.
They are here to do some self-inquiry with us on the air today. So thank you for being here. It's a true pleasure to have you in studio with us. So if you are new to self-inquiry or just want a little brush up on your self-inquiry knowledge, head on over to our self-inquiry overview episode. We'll link it in the show notes. But this will give you a more expansive kind of description of the self-inquiry process. For our purposes today, I'll just share a little bit about self-inquiry. I always do this to get myself in the mood, to get us all kind of in this kind of very different way of experiencing our feelings and experiencing the world around us, really. Because here in self-inquiry, we are choosing to move towards unwanted emotions. Typically, we move away from these uncomfortable feelings because they are uncomfortable, and we miss out on exploring their messages. So in self-inquiry, we are inviting ourselves to stay in the suck for a little bit of time, just for a few minutes, in order to explore what the learning might be. So we're asking that golden question: what is it that I do not yet understand here? What is just beyond myself? The steps of self-inquiry I break them down into 3 steps. And the first step is to identify a specific time, emphasis on specific time where you experienced an unwanted emotion, and take yourself back into it emotionally. So it's an experiential process. You want to feel your way through it. And then ask yourself that question: what is the learning here? What is it that I do not yet understand? And you're really trying to see beyond your current understanding of your experience. What is it that you haven't, what is it that you can't see? And then finally, you're finding a reminder, or in self-inquiry world, a difficult question that opens up your learning, that when you hear the question, it's dysregulating, it's upsetting, it's not something you want to consider, but it holds dysregulation in your emotional experience. And that dysregulation in self-inquiry world it has learning potential, right? There's all this possibility of learning within dysregulated emotions. So those questions are difficult, but they are great in terms of your growth and understanding of who you are, and really maybe who you already are but don't yet know it. You know, we think about that in self-inquiry, is that we've already become something that we don't yet know. And so in self-inquiry, you're working to catch up on yourself. So those are the 3 steps. And then we will afterwards move into a group practice together where we ask one another difficult questions, or I shouldn't say one another. Kara and I are going to ask Phoebe and Asha difficult questions. But first, I want to give Asha and Phoebe some time to do some self-inquiry in your journal, and then we'll have you share your work with us. So we'll take 3 to 5 minutes right now to do that work, and we'll be back in just a bit. Okay, and we're back. Phoebe and Asha just finished their journal self-inquiry work, and now we will enter a group process where Phoebe and Asha will share the self-inquiry work that they just did, and then open to us asking questions. And this is taking you into a self-inquiry group at Opal. This is how we run it there. And it is doubling down on the self-inquiry work that they just did. So this is particularly brave work, right? Because they've just done the brave work of self-inquiry and now they're letting us speak into their work. And we find that this group process is particularly rich because we can see what others can't see, and with other viewpoints in the room, we can see more with our different perceptual biases at play. So our job for those not doing self-inquiry is to ask asshole questions, to ask the questions that we would never ask in polite company, but we do so here in an effort to help one another grow and learn. So they're coming from a place of kindness, as difficult as they may be, as uncomfortable as they may be. The intention is to encourage your growth and learning. But it's up to you to determine whether the questions are indeed dysregulating, right? Because one question for one person will not move them in any particular way, and for another person it will be deeply moving. So it's up to you to decide what feels rich and its potential for learning. It's important that you know that you can stop at any point. If you get flooded, please let us know, and we'll shift away. And you'll also notice as part of this process that we will not validate or soothe or offer kind of regulating comments, and that is intentional, and that we want you to have access to your full emotional experience, and we don't want to get in the way of what is there. So you'll kind of not see the same kind of social graces or social kindness that you see in most interactions, particularly when people are sharing vulnerably. And any identifying information of Phoebe and Asha has been removed. So with that, who would like to start?
I can.
Okay, great. Phoebe, share what you think would be helpful for us in understanding your work.
Yeah, so I did a self-inquiry around this being my last week at Opal, and specifically today being my last day. I have been feeling a lot of things, but something I've noticed coming up is a lot of nostalgia, I guess, for my eating disorder, which in turn I feel guilty about because I know it's something that brought me a lot of pain and difficulty, but it's also something that brought me to Opal, which has been one of the most connecting experiences of my life. So I think my body knows that my eating disorder behaviors are what got me here, and so I feel a lot of longing for those again. And yeah.
And did you have any questions that you asked yourself in your journal work?
I didn't.
Okay. Any clarifying questions before we ask self-inquiry questions?
I guess one clarifying question is what emotion is the most dysregulating as you did your process?
I think the guilt.
The guilt. And a clarifying question again, the guilt is connected to having nostalgia for the eating disorder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a clarifying question: is it a thought, or is the nostalgia for the eating disorder a feeling and a thought, or is it resulted in change in behavior?
Behaviors as well. Yeah.
I have a question I can ask. Is it okay if there's always a part of you that's going to miss your eating disorder?
Does that bring up dysregulation?
Yeah.
Are you longing for your eating disorder or for the connection that eating disorder treatment brought you?
What makes you think you need your eating disorder for connection?
Where did you get the idea that you wouldn't have longing for your eating disorder or have times where you have lapses?
What's getting in the way of believing you can have full connection with others without the eating disorder as a means to get there?
Similarly, does letting go of your eating disorder mean letting go of connections that it led you to?
Do you believe you have to be ill on some level to be really connected to people and have a full heart connection?
Is it okay that some connections might not, I don't know how to word this. I think you know what
I know what you mean.
I'm trying to figure out a way to word it. Is it okay that you might lose some connections as you move forward with the recovery?
How might you bring your own vulnerability into relationships without using your eating disorder to get there?
How can you untie the connection between being ill and receiving care and connection?
Can you be vulnerable without having an eating disorder?
Which of these is any one in particular popping out or leaving a particular mark on you?
I think anything around like the connection between being sick and making connections. Like, I think Kara asked, like, do you have to be sick in order to make connections?
Okay. Appreciate you sharing, especially on this at this moment in your life. Yeah, it's really rich. So thank you. Okay, Asha, take us into your work.
Yeah, so I was doing self inquiry over something that happened this past Tuesday. We were having dinner, and I think the meal we had was a very uncommon meal, and it reminded me of a time I'd had that exact same meal with someone I have some bad memories with. And after dinner, I was actually sitting with Phoebe, and I started having a panic attack. And Phoebe was reassuring me and sitting with me. And I think one of the biggest feelings that came up from that I would say was the unwanted feeling, was a lot of embarrassment. And then some questions I asked around that was, what if there are some reactions that will always be out of my control? And then would it make me a quote unquote stronger person to not try and suppress these reactions?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Is the embarrassment related to the nature of the emotion being out of control? So like the panic attack, feeling like, do you have embarrassment around kind of emotions in general or particular emotions in general, or is it the out of control piece of it?
I think emotions in general, but I think especially with this, it was it being so out of control.
Do you mind repeating what your question was?
Yes, I had two. So one of the questions I asked was, what if there are some reactions that will always be out of my control? And then would it make me a quote unquote stronger person to not try and suppress these reactions?
Where did the connection between expressing vulnerability and embarrassment come from?
Where'd you get the idea that feeling certain emotions relates to whether you're a strong or weak person?
What's wrong with being out of control?
I guess this is kind of a longer one, but there have been a lot of times over the last week that you've sat with me in some really intense and difficult emotions and never with any judgment. So I guess my question is, why don't you think you deserve the same care that you give other people?
I think that one is something I'm thinking about.
That one makes you more dysregulated. Yeah. So why do you see yourself as less deserving or less than others?
Or what makes you think that other people don't want to take care of you?
It sounds like this meal brought up, as you said, a bad memory, and so like it seems like it would be pretty normal to feel a lot when a bad memory comes up, when a difficult memory comes up. So I guess I'm like a question around like what did do you have an assumption that you should not be human like others?
Is there a belief you're protecting that's not your own? About difficult emotions?
Or jumping off of that, is there a belief that you're trying to live out that's not your own or that you don't identify with?
I think both of those.
What is the risk of updating your beliefs? What's the risk of holding a different set of beliefs than someone else's that you may be trying to protect?
Who are you practicing becoming?
I think that one's very circulating.
Are you afraid of being known in a way that's out of your control?
Sounds like you had a few in there that hit you
Yeah.
in some way. Okay. Are there any remaining self-inquiry questions from us?
I have one. Is the embarrassment from your reaction to the event, or does it come from, I don't know how to say this, or does it come from the event specifically?
How is this self-inquiry potentially intersecting with some identity confusion?
Good. Any other? Okay. Okay. Well, let's stop here. Thank you, Phoebe and Asha, for sharing your work. And I want to say a particular thank you to bringing your friendship into the podcast and kind of showing how friendships can kind of circle around self-inquiry. Like friendships can involve self-inquiry. I know that I have friends where we talk self-inquiry, just part of the, when we lean on each other, we use self-inquiry to kind of help each other grow and learn. And I appreciate you bringing that to us and to the listeners today.
I literally, when Lexi and I got in here, I said, I could do some self-inquiry with you as my friend right now. So we were just in that moment.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. So I love that, you sharing that with us. If you are interested in doing self-inquiry on air with us, submit an application by clicking on the link in the episode description. If you want to learn more about self-inquiry, as I said, go to our self-inquiry overview episode. Thank you to Jack Straw Cultural Center for sound engineering. Thanks to Aaron Davidson for the Appetites original music, and to David Bazzi for editing. If you want to learn more about Opal's programming, go to opalfoodandbody.com. And we hope this podcast has inspired you to be a half a shade braver today. Until next time.